Hello, spooky crew. Our tote bag drawing is officially closed, and we just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who entered. We are so grateful for the love and the support, and we have loved reading your reviews. Missed the tote? No worries. We're still sending out high-quality vinyl stickers while supplies last. Just email us proof of your rating and review along with your mailing address to thespookydarlings@gmail.com, and we'll get one headed your way. Quick promise, your address is only for mailing the sticker. No emails, no selling info, no funny business, just spooky gratitude. Thanks again for supporting the show. You are the reason we do this.
You're listening to The Spooky Darlings, where three sisters talk about all kinds of things that are bizarre and creepy and fascinating. I'm Emily.
I'm Haley.
And I'm Jeanette.
And today, Jeanette is going to tell us all about something. I actually have no idea what this is, but is it a place?
I'm not sure who we're talking about because I have a sister, Nettie.
Oh, sorry.
Nettie is short for Jeanette. And she's going to tell us about something or someone or some place called Bushman's Hole.
Correct. I am.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the intro. Okay. I'm going to take you with me to South Africa.
South Africa?
Oh, yes. Thank you. You said that for the people that will be listening from South Africa. They'll be able to understand you now.
Yeah.
So picture South Africa on the Northern Cape. There's an expanse of land called Mount Carmel's Safari. And if you were to go to their website, you would see things like opportunities to book a hunting safari or a photograph safari. You would also see under the memories tag a bunch of really sad photos of beautiful game animals.
Aww.
It's so sad. And then you'd also see suggestions to go to the Wonderwork Caves, which are right close to the Mount Carmel Safari's resort area. And it's the site of the oldest evidence of use of fire by humans, and also the oldest dwelling they have found where they know humans dwelt.
Ooh,
there?
Lived?
Yes. So I thought that was really cool. And on this list of things to do, you will find that you can take a bushwalk around the Boomensgat, or also known as Bushman's Hole. Boomensgat is, I think, Afrikaans, Mansgat, Boomensgat. It's Afrikaans for Bushman's Hole. But what you will not see is an option to book a dive there, because it is an opportunity for only the most experienced and the most daring of divers. I'm going to tell you the story of friends and diving partners Dave Shaw and Don Shirley, and the fateful venture they go on deep into Bushman's Hole, where only one returns.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Now, Bushman's Hole is so unassuming. If you were to stumble upon it, you would think that you just came upon like sort of a little pond, a little pool somewhere in a, sort of a sinkhole in the middle of this expanse of land. So the surface of Bushman's Hole is covered in a little plant called duckweed that's like an aquatic green, like aquatic plant that kind of covers most of the surface for much of the year. But under the surface of this really vibrant green duckweed is clean, crystal clear water. And that's what's kind of strange is when you have weeds growing on top like that and you're in a place with very little water, the water is normally not crystal clear unless it has some place to filter to. Because also hiding under all of this duckweed and about 3 meters down, maybe a little further, is a small slot entrance that is just under 1 meter wide into one of the deepest and darkest freshwater caves in the world.
I just respect people who have this type of sense of adventure, but I would never.
Oh, me neither. Actually, getting my main source, I'll just tell you now, is an article from outdoor.com, and I have a few other sources that I looked at as well. But even just getting through the article the first time, I felt like I was hyperventilating. Talking about diving and like everything it takes, like I would have to take deep breaths. And I remember telling a friend about it. They're like, well, what are you working on? And I was like, well, I'm researching this thing on Bushman's Hole. And I would start breathing deep. And it's like, I can talk about murder, but I have a really hard time with this diving thing. Yeah.
I struggled when we did our diving training. I struggled a lot, even just in the pool where I knew I could shoot up to the top anytime. Like I really struggled with the breathing. It's a scary thing for me. And even now when we go diving, I get really panicked before I get under the water. I get really, really panicked.
Yeah.
And you can't panic when you're deep diving.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I learned in my research. You have to stay calm no matter what's happening because panic can lead to hyperventilation.
Yeah, it made my panic go away when they paired me with Julia, who was 10 years old at the time, and she had been certified before me, but I was paired with her and so focused on keeping her near me and safe that I wasn't able to even like register my own fear as much.
You had that like mom job, something to do.
Mom brain.
Yeah. So,
Mom bravery.
mom bravery. Let me tell you more about this hole. So Bushman's hole, the cave underneath it, is 900 feet deep and it is 2 football fields wide. It's the 3rd deepest freshwater cave in the world. And I was trying to like look up what the biggest freshwater cavern was in the world, just because the cavern of this one space seems big, seems like so big, because the ones I was looking at that were deeper didn't seem to be quite as cavernous, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you could set the Eiffel Tower inside Bushman's hole and the top would just barely poke out. Like the very tippy top would poke out just like a few feet.
France would be so mad if you did that.
I know. I'm not going to.
Yeah, you're not?
I doubt it. So the only living thing in this cavern that we know of are tiny blind white cave shrimp. So it's super remote, it's super dark, and it's also super dangerous. And it's also a place that only a few people have touched the bottom of.
Wow.
In fact, more people have been on the moon than have been to the bottom of this cave.
What?
So this little place, the Bushman's Hole, has been a local watering hole for ages. And it goes down deep in a sinkhole. It's got cliffs on the side, but there's like a stone path you can take down to the water. And in 1977, an amateur diver named Mike Rathborn did the first known official exploration of the cave by working his way through the chimney slot into the cavern. He didn't go much further, but he got in there and realized that he was looking at something unexplored, something deep, and something huge. Now, a few years later, after word started to spread in the diving community that there was this opportunity here, a man named Nuno Gomes, and he's a South African diver, conducted the first significant dive through the narrow chimney, and he reached a depth of about 75 meters, which is 250 feet. And then he realized that the sinkhole opened up to a much larger expanse and that he wasn't going to be hitting the bottom anytime soon. So I believe it was Nuno Gomes also that he was able to get a sonar scanner or some type of scanner and scan the bottom and kind of get the relative size of it. And I do have a picture, and this will be on our socials. And what is really cool about this photo is that it's a sketch of like a cross section of Bushman's Hole that someone in his family made. I wasn't sure if it was like a wife or daughter, but you can see that's the pond on top, the tiny little chimney slot,
Okay.
and then
Wow.
the giant cavern.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And on this sketch, if you decide to look at our social media and look at it, it shows the depths that certain divers went. And we'll be talking about a lot of those divers today.
So it's quite a narrow neck at the opening where you can reach the surface, and then beneath is like much, much larger and wider and expansive.
Yes, it's like the width of 2 football fields and the height of the Eiffel Tower, but the little slot that you have to go through is less than a meter, just under a meter.
No, I don't want to do that.
No, I don't either. Especially with all those tanks that you need for diving. No, thank you.
I know. I kept fearing when I was supposed to try to do a cave dive, I kept fearing that like I would hit something and it would knock my breathing tube loose, or like somehow, because I'm clumsy anyway, just on Earth, on land. I mean, I know you're still on Earth and the water, but like
On planet Earth as opposed to other planets.
my least clumsy planet is.
So in 1993, so in 1981 was when Nuno Gomes went in and realized it was huge. And then in 1993, a diver named Shek Exley was the first person to touch the bottom of Bushman's Hole. And did not get the depth he went to, but it goes as deep as 927 feet, but depending on what part you land on, you might be higher up, like 830 feet or something. So in 1996, so this was 15 years after Nuno Gomez first went in and realized it was huge, he set a world record by diving to a depth of 927 feet in South Africa's Bushman's Hole, or Bushmanskat Cave. And this dive required 12 hours of decompression. Do you want to know how long he got to spend at the bottom?
A second.
1 second. He touched the bottom and immediately started his ascent.
Yeah.
Immediately started his ascent, and then had to take 12 hours to decompress.
No.
Yeah, it's kind
What's
of
this guy's name
insane.
again?
Nuno Gomez.
Nuno Gomez.
Or
no.
maybe
Nuno.
Nuno.
No.
I thought it was Sheck Exley.
Sheck Exley's the first one that touched the bottom.
Nuno Gomez was.
First, Nuno Gomez is the one that broke the record by diving to a depth of 927 feet.
Okay.
It's depending on where you land on the bottom. It's like a sloped bottom. So when you hit it, you're on like a hill. Like you land on the bottom and you're going to be walking uphill or downhill. So that was pretty cool. So Nuno Gomez, I think he still might be the record holder now for that dive. And as far as I know, he's still alive, but it's like,
Okay. I just want to clarify something really quick. Do you mind? So he touched the bottom for like a second, but the dive took him 12 hours for decompressing up.
yes, but only
Right.
like less than 15 minutes to descend,
Okay.
touch the bottom, and then he has to stop
Then
at
you have
certain
to
levels.
acclimate.
Yes, to
Okay.
go and like let his body decompress. And the way that made the most sense to me is someone explained it like shaking up a bottle of Coke. Like imagine your blood is all shooken up like a
Okay.
bottle of Coke. And if you take the cap off, it lets out all the gas. And that's what happens to your blood if you rise too fast.
You get the bends.
Yes, you get the bends. And so if you sit at the certain levels and decompress, then you are not going to get the bends.
Okay.
And you just have to take hours to do it. And it's
Okay.
cold. Like this is South Africa, but this is like a deep underwater cave with very cold water.
I'm trying to picture how he could have possibly had 12 hours of oxygen.
Well, he took tons of tanks, and then they drop the shot line that or the drop line that drops to the bottom of the cave, and then they tie off at each of his like decompression stations new bottles of gas,
Okay, so he was swapping out his tanks.
swapping out his tanks.
Okay.
Wow.
Thanks for asking that, because
Yeah.
I was a little confused too.
Well, and it's a really good clarification because the next person I'm going to tell you about did a different type of diving and broke several world records. So in October of 2004, Australian cave diver Dave Shaw set the world record at Bushman's Hole. He set several world records, actually. He reached a depth of 270 meters, which is 886 feet, on a rebreather in a cave. So new record for depth in a cave on a rebreather, and depth on a rebreather at the high altitude where Bushman's Cave is, because it's not at sea level. Like so many dives are at sea level. And then if you take the elevation up, because Bushman's Cave is inland, it's on a really high altitude, it changes everything.
Oh, wow.
So do you guys know what a rebreather is? I'm going to explain it. So a rebreather recycles the diver's breath by chemically removing CO2 from the exhale and then adding oxygen back into it before it's inhaled again. So it just like recycles the breath. And there's a lot of nice things about it that divers like, especially if they're diving in places that are cold, is that it keeps the breath warm and moist. Whereas if you're breathing from a tank, the air is cold that's coming in, and it does a surprising number on your body temperature if you're in cold waters and trying to keep your temperature up to be breathing this gas in the cylinders that is cold when it comes into your lungs.
Okay.
So it helps regulate body temperature, and it's an alternative to carrying cylinders of compressed air on your back, and which are also heavy and cumbersome. And you still bring a bailout cylinder with you. So if your rebreather stops working, you have a cylinder attached, and you'll have safety cylinders along the drop line if you're doing a really deep dive as a precaution.
Okay.
So tell you a little bit about David. Dave Shaw was an Australian pilot. He's married to a woman named Anne. He has a couple kids, I think 2 kids. And he was always an adventure seeker. Like from the time he was a kid, up to his adulthood, which is, I think, why he chose pilot. I have a feeling that most people that choose pilot as a career are a little bit adventurous. And he lived all over the world, traveled everywhere. And then finally, he and his wife settled in Hong Kong. And so he was a pilot based out of Hong Kong. But he did his first dive in 1999, and he was immediately hooked. And within 5 years, he was already breaking records.
Wow.
I know, pretty cool. At Bushman's Hole. But a new record is not the only thing Dave Shaw uncovered during his record-breaking dive.
What? What did he uncover?
On October 28th, 2004, Dave Shaw put on his dry suit, put his rebreather on his back with 6 cylinders of gas attached. On land, he could barely walk. It was so cumbersome. But in the water, he moved easily and gracefully. He began his dive. He was so happy. He's in his element. Everything was going perfectly as planned. His friend, Don Shirley, an experienced diver, would be one of his support divers. Waiting for his ascent around 700 feet, that's where Dave Shaw's first safety check would be, where he'll stop and wait for a few hours to decompress. Don Shirley will be waiting for him there, right? And then Don Shirley just does a check. He waits there, he does a check, and then he starts ascending, and he also has to take his time up, but he'll be ahead of David. Because it all, like, the calculation is how long you're under, how deep you go. And it's like every minute that you spend on the bottom at 900 feet adds 1 hour of decompression time.
Whoa.
Isn't that insane? And then it was something like every 30 feet that you descend. I can't remember what the calculation was, but there was some math calculation. So everything's going perfectly as planned. He does his dive down, and his friend is waiting for him at the first check-in. He took about 10 minutes to reach the bottom, and he followed the shot line down, and he lands and attaches a reel to the shot line so he could wander off and explore. And he's so excited because Nuno Gomez touched down but wasn't able to explore. He had to get back up to live. But David Shaw, because of the rebreather, is able to like walk around a little bit and spend some time.
Whoa.
So he felt like he had no time to waste, though, because even he allowed himself 4 minutes, and those 4 minutes were going to cost him like an additional 4 hours of of time coming up.
Wait, and this was at the very bottom, or was this part way?
Very bottom.
Okay.
So he felt like he had no time to waste, but he's like chill. He's calm. He's in his element. He's checking things out. He's shining his flashlight around.
Monster.
When suddenly he sees something. About 50 feet to his left, he can see perfectly clear in the beam of his flashlight a dead body.
Oh.
The body was in full scuba gear, lying on its back in the silt. The corpse's arms were stretched upwards, as if reaching towards the unseen opening of the cave.
Oh my gosh.
Because at that depth, no light from the cave is coming through. It's too deep. So it's just pitch black. The only light is from the flashlight, and it's so expansive that like you shine your beam, you're not going to see walls. You're not going to see the edge of the cave. Your beam just gets swallowed into the darkness after a few feet. Dave knew who it was immediately. He knew it was Dion Dreyer. Dion was a South African cave diver who had gone missing 10 years earlier, and Dion was only 20 years old when he went missing. He was very experienced, though. Even though he was young, he had been on over 200 dives, and it was his favorite thing to do. He drowned in Bushman's Hole and went missing, essentially, on December 17th, 1994, during a practice dive.
Oh, no.
Dion had been invited to help a team assembled by Nuno Gomez to do like a deep technical dive that was supposed to be scheduled later that week. So this was just part of the practice dive. And so for the practice dives, you're getting your body acclimated to different depths. So I think that they had only gone down, I don't even think 500 feet. And they were starting to come back up. And you have your diving partner. He had his diving partner, and his diving partner remembers that, they did the okay check, and Dion said he was okay. The diving partner gave him the okay back. And then within a minute, not even a minute later, the head diver, their leader, looked down and noticed there was a light about 100 meters below them, or 100 feet below them. And so they quickly, very alarmed because there should not be a light, looked around and did a count, and they realized they were missing Dion. So he quickly tried to swim down after him. was like, okay, so something must have happened. I'm going to swim down after him. But as he was going, he realized Dion's body was descending faster than he could swim to keep up with him. And he realized that it was going to be a suicide mission, that if he swam down to him, he would not survive. Oh man, it was really, really hard.
That sounds so harrowing.
I think he realized he would pass out, just like with everything happening, that he'd end up drowning. So he had to make the tough choice to leave Dion behind.
Gosh, I wonder what happened. Like, must have been like a equipment malfunction or something.
Well, most likely it was something to do with the gases that they breathe in the rebreather. It's really easy to hyperventilate. It's really easy to get CO2 poisoning because if you start taking shallow breaths, like that, your the CO2 is not clearing out of your lungs.
Right.
And so it's like here it all just dissipates into the air, but I don't know, like diving just makes it so much worse. You're so much more susceptible.
Right.
So they conjectured that he had probably lost consciousness because of oxygen toxicity or a thing called hypercapnia, which is the like high breathing, kind of like hyperventilating.
Okay.
2 weeks after Dreyer's death, Dreyer's father, so this is Dion Dreyer is his name. There's lots of D names in this. There's Don, Shirley, Dave Shaw, and Dion Dreyer. So it might be hard to keep them all separate, but
You're doing great.
Dion is the young one. So Dion's father, Theo, hired like a De Beers mining company little submarine to go down into the cave and just try to see if they could find his body. They were able to locate his helmet, but they could not find his body. Oh. So they accepted that they would never be able to retrieve Dion's body, and they put a plaque above Bushman's cave honoring him and decided that that would be his grave. And his father even, said like, he has the most beautiful grave. Like, what a place to be buried. But like, deep in their hearts, they wanted their son. They wanted him back. And 2 weeks before this dive where Dion lost his life, they had been at like their grandfather, like Dion's grandfather had died. So they were at a family gathering. And they were all kind of talking about death. And Dion had said that he said that if he had a choice of how to go out in life, he'd like to go out diving. He said that 2 weeks before he died diving.
Oh, wow.
So back to Dave. Dave immediately knows it's Dion Dreyer. So he moves closer, like unspooling more of the line so he can stay attached. And he gets close and he sees that the body is fully intact. All the scuba gear is still intact. His hands and his head are fully skeletonized. So he didn't have gloves on and he didn't have like any shield covering his face, although his helmet was gone. His goggles were still attached to his skeletonized face. So Dave makes the immediate decision. He's like maybe a minute and a half into his like 4-minute window to be on the floor. He decided he's going to try to bring up the body. So he like hooks under his armpits and tries to lift him, and he realizes he can't. His diving equipment is lodged in the silt. So he realizes he's starting to breathe hard. He tried like 3 or 4 times to lift him out, and he's starting to breathe hard. So he has to get his breath back under control, and he has to start his ascent. But he makes the decision then and there, before he even starts to ascend, that he will come back to retrieve Dion's body. So he ties a line onto Dion so that they can find him easily, and he works his way up to his first rendezvous point where his friend Don is waiting for him.
Wow.
This is actually at 400 meters, not 700, like I said earlier. So this is about 1 hour into the dive, and he has 9 hours still of decompression that he has to spend 9 hours ascending. Wow. So he takes a slate, which is how they communicate. They have like slates with, I'm assuming, chalk, and he writes on the slate, "I'm okay. Found body 270 meters. Don, Shirley, of course, is surprised, and he starts his ascent because his job is just to wait for Dave to get there, make sure Dave's okay, and then he starts ascending, and then like reports to the next person that he's okay, and then Dave will keep ascending and report and like check in with the next person at the next checkpoint. So Don realizes as he's going up, he said, if it was him that discovered the body, he would just let it rest. He would say that's like kind of almost like Mount Everest. It's almost too risky to retrieve the bodies. Right. So you just kind of let them be. But he said that he knew Dave would want to retrieve the body because Dave had kids about the same age as, Dion when Dion went missing. And he also knew that Dave would be a little bit intrigued by this being the deepest body recovery.
Oh, wow.
World,
Yeah.
So he'd break another world record of recovering the deepest body. So when Dave finally emerged 9 hours later, the first words out of his mouth were, "I want to try to take him out." And so they started planning. Now I'm going to tell you about the dangers of diving.
Okay.
And why this is a big deal. Because at first when I read this, I was like, well, he had all this stuff there. Why didn't he just go down the next day? I genuinely wondered because I didn't understand the science of it and how you have to acclimate your body and then your body needs recovery time. And you can't actually do a bunch of deep dives one after the other without really putting yourself at risk for some major problems. So first of all, diving is dangerous, especially in caves, because you can get trapped or lost. If something happens to your line, you can get disconnected and not be able to find your way out.
Oh, scary.
You can have equipment failure. And when you're at great depths, there's really nothing you can do about it because you can't swim to the top to try to fix it. You will die. You will die. And there's a number of ways that you can poison yourself while diving just by trying to breathe. So in these deep dive gas mixes, they have helium, nitrogen, and oxygen, and it's called trimix. And it's actually pretty dangerous because it can kill you in a lot of ways, but it can also keep you alive if it works right. First of all, at a certain depth, oxygen becomes toxic, causing sudden violent seizures. So this can cause a diver to suddenly just lose their regulator if the regulator is their breathing apparatus, right? And so if they have a seizure, their regulator can come out, and if they can't find it again, they'll drown. You can get vertigo suddenly or having tremors, nausea, twitching in the face and lips, or vision changes. Those are all signs and symptoms of the oxygen being toxic.
Oh, gosh.
And then there's another thing that can happen with nitrogen. Nitrogen can cause nitrogen narcosis, which makes you basically feel like you're super drunk very suddenly. I think in the article I read, they likened it to drinking 6 to 7 martinis all at once on an empty stomach and then having to still make sound and clear decisions. That's what nitrogen narcosis causes. And it goes away as soon as you start ascending. But it happens, and it happens all the time to divers. They expect it and plan for it. And so they have things like you have a plan and you stick to your plan. And if you know you're having nitrogen narcosis, you just keep repeating the plan in your head. And that plan is always to safely return up, right?
Don't throw a party all of a sudden.
No.
That's what drunk Haley likes to do.
Well, we don't let
That's what Haley with 6 martinis on an empty stomach does. She starts dancing.
we don't let that Haley dive. Or drive. I was about to say drive or dive.
No, do not drive.
So with nitrogen narcosis, the deeper you go, the worse it gets. And so it impairs judgment, all the things you would expect with someone who's on a narcotic or on alcohol. It impairs judgment, coordination, memory loss. You can experience euphoria, overconfidence, confusion, anxiety. And then as you start to ascend, the symptoms just go away and suddenly you're sober.
All right.
So then the other chemical that's in the trimix is helium.
Hold on.
That one's just for funsies, right? To make your voice sound fun.
Well, that's the biggest danger is they'll be like, is there a mouse down here? So helium, it's a really good gas for diving because the lower density makes it easier to breathe and it decompresses faster than nitrogen. So I think that you can it helps you ascend a little bit faster if you have helium in the mix, but it can cause something called high pressure nervous syndrome, which happens below 500 to 600 feet. And it just makes you suddenly lose all the heat in your body and can make voices sound high pitched is also in there. And it can serve you into can send you into nervous twitching fits. So those things can all happen. Also, if you don't breathe slowly and deeply and calmly, carbon dioxide can build up in your lungs and you'll black out and drown, which is what they think most likely happened to Dion Dreyer. And if you ascend too fast, the nitrogen and helium that has been forced into your tissues under pressure will make little bubbles, causing the bends, which are really, really awful.
Sounds terrible.
Nobody wants the bends.
No.
So Dave calls Marie and Theo Dreyer, Dion's parents, and he tells them he found their son. And he says, I want to bring him up. And Marie and Theo are thrilled. They're like, yes, if you're willing and you want to do this, of course, we would love it. So, David and his bestie, Don Shirley, start making plans. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Don. Don is a British expat living in South Africa, and he specializes in rebreather diving and training. He served in the British Army as a technical diver, and that's how he got his experience. And then when he moved to South Africa, he bought a big property where there was like an abandoned asbestos mine that was filled with water, and it was called Komati Springs. And he and his wife, Andre, ran it as a diving training school.
Sounds really dangerous.
Well, it's weird because I think that it's like the asbestos is not in the air because it's water, and it's like asbestos.
It's not in our ceilings.
Yeah, well, the like asbestos poisoning can happen like when you breathe it in is the problem, but you're not breathing in the asbestos because it's the mine is filled with water, so there's no powder.
I just have some questions for them.
I will give you his address
phone
to
number?
Komati Springs so you can email him. Okay, the email address. So, Dave Shaw shows up at Komati Springs one day and he was like, "Hey, I want to dive here." And within 2 days of Dave diving at Komati Springs, he had already beat the record for depth at Komati Springs. He had actually reached the very end of the mine, and no other diver had done that.
Whoa.
So they were like, I think Don was like, "Okay, this is a really good diving partner. This is a man who's brave and willing to try things and push things and kind of like breaking records and opening doors for the world of diving." So they logged hundreds of hours together before they did this record-breaking Bushman's Hole dive that resulted in them finding Dion's body. So they began planning, months of planning. They set a date for January 1st, 2005. Dave's wife, Anne, had a bad feeling from the start and was like, "Are you sure you need to do this?" But she was really used to him doing these kind of dangerous things. But she did say it was a particularly bad feeling for this one. So he actually told her that the dive was on January 1st. He told her he was diving on January 2nd so that he could just call her when the dive was over and say, "I already did it. You don't need to worry." That was his plan. A week before the dive, so the day after Christmas, he went to Komati Springs. He met up with Don and they started their practice dives to acclimate their body. He had been really worried because when he saw Dion, he saw that his hands were skeletonized and his face was skeletonized. So he was like thinking, okay, I've got basically a skeleton inside a dry suit. And he was worried that when he tried to collect it and when he freed it from the silt, that it would like maybe fall apart. So he designed like a silk body bag that he could just go. It had a big opening that he could kind of scoop around the body. And then he was going to be able to tie it off and attach it to the line and then sort of have it guided up the line. He'd be able to pass it off to other divers while he did his ascent. It was the plan. So he practiced on Don. Don kind of like did dead weight. They went down to like 70 feet was all, but he practiced how he would put the body in the body bag on Don. And it worked. He felt really comfortable with it. And they assembled a team. And this team had 7 South African rebreather divers, handpicked by Don Shirley, along with the Cape Town and Pretoria police team of divers. Because they were retrieving a dead body, the police also had to be there. They had 35 extra cylinders of gas placed strategically along the line. They all had backup lights. They had backup everything you could need. They had a doctor that specialized in diving physiology who, when he found out that this dive involved 9 divers plus 2 backup divers, so that doctor almost backed out because he was like, "No, that's too many. That's too risky. I don't want to be in charge of that risky of a situation." But they talked him into it. They had a pulley system because Bushman's Hole is down like in cliffs. It's like cliffs on the side. They had a pulley system where they could like take a body up if needed. So they didn't have to walk it up the trail. And there was a documentary filmmaker who was really interested in filming the dive. So he had filmed some of Dave's preparation and he had filmed some of Don's preparation. Then he had made a camera, taken a special camera. I don't know if this was before GoPro or what, but he affixed it, like got the special camera, affixed it to a helmet, and then had Dave practice wearing it. And Dave was not in the habit of wearing helmets when he dove. So it was a little clunky because he held his light in one hand, and then if he needed both hands, he would swing his light around his neck because his light's attached to him with a rope instead of letting it go and like floating out next to him. That was just his habit, like swing the light around his neck. So he couldn't do that with the helmet on because it kept catching. So he was like, okay, I think I got this figured out. Instead of swinging it around my neck, if I need both hands, I'm just going to let it kind of go next to me for a minute, and then I'll just grab it and pull it back in. And he's like, it'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. So they were getting the team ready, giving them like the pep talk before the big dive the day before. And they gave these rules. Everyone is assigned to a depth. No one dives deeper than the depth they are assigned. Everything is timed to the minute. You stick to your timing. Shaw told them, Dave Shaw, the most important person on this dive is you. If you have a problem, deal with your problem and forget about me. He told the team, it's better to have one person dead than two. Then Shirley added, if Dave doesn't make it, if I don't make it, we stay there. That's the end of the story. We don't want to be recovered. So they told all the divers this. Now, Dave is going to be the only one going all the way to the floor to retrieve the body. And then Don was going to be the next diver up. So those are the two most dangerous positions. They're even at the 700 feet mark, it's incredibly deep and incredibly dangerous. So 6 a.m., they all were gathered at the pool. Everyone was ready. Dave and Don shook hands. And at 6:13, Dave said, I'll see you in 20 minutes. Attached his breathing apparatus, and he went under the water. And I have a photo of him right before this dive that I'll put on the socials. So he started his dive. And Dion's parents actually came shortly after. They wanted to wait until Dave had started so that Dave wouldn't feel any extra pressure from their presence. But they also were feeling, like they were really excited that their son was going to be returned to them, but also knew the dangers of this. So the descent took 11 minutes, and he was actually 1.5 minutes ahead of schedule.
Oh, wow.
And so everything was looking fine because the descent is okay. Like he was fine to descend fast. It's the ascent that you have to take your time on. So 13 minutes after Dave went under, it was time for Don to descend. So he went down and he was like right on time. And he was supposed to go down to 725 feet. And that was the first rendezvous point. But when he hit around 500 feet, he was looking down and the water was so clear that he could see Shaw's light 400 feet below him. So at first he was like, oh, wow, I can see my friend. But then as he watched it more, as he continued his descent, he saw that the light was not moving.
Oh, no.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. So so after they did like the end of story, don't retrieve us, Shirley, Dawn said privately to Dave, if you're in trouble, do you want me to come after you? And Dave said, I want you to come, but only if I signal. And the signal was either waving your flashlight back and forth rapidly or turning the flashlight off and on. So just like a normal movement of a flashlight wouldn't be the signal. It would be like that kind of frantic movement. So Dave had said that. So Don remembered that he had said that, and he looked and saw that the flashlight was holding perfectly still.
Oh, no.
So Don surely knew something had gone wrong. It was over 20 minutes since Shaw had started his dive, and he should be on his way back up, but the light was not moving, and there were also no bubbles. And even though the rebreather, you don't exhale into the water, where you'd have a lot more bubbles if they were using like a regulator with a normal gas cylinder pack, you still lose a little bit of air, just like with your dry suit and the compression of the dry suit, little bubbles would be coming up. So he like felt that sinking feeling that something was wrong, but he had to stay calm, because if he started to panic, that's when, your emotions can actually kill you under the water. So he decided that even though Shaw had not signaled to him, it wasn't waving his flashlight, that he was going to descend and he was going to retrieve his friend. So he started down, and when he got to 800 feet, 100 feet away from David, he heard a loud crack. The controller for his rebreather had imploded. And so it would not be like regulating and automatically adding oxygen to the mix. He had to manually monitor his own oxygen and add oxygen himself. And that is a full-time job. So he had an 11 or 10 hour ascension ahead of him where he was going to need to monitor his oxygen himself.
Oh my gosh.
So he realized that he could not go down and retrieve his friend. It was going to be a suicide mission.
That's so sad.
Yeah, no chance to retrieve Shaw. So he started back up the shot line for his 10-hour ascension. And after a few minutes, he looked down, and he was far enough away that Dave's light had disappeared. But yeah, so everything was not going well.
No.
Up on the surface, though, they had no idea that things were wrong. They had no way of knowing what was happening below. So they just stayed on schedule with the next divers leaving in sequence to their safety checkpoints and to wait for the ascending divers. So the first two divers that went down realized that when they got to their assigned depth, which they were the next ones up after where Don Shirley was supposed to be, they were expecting to see two flashlights coming towards them because Don and Dave would be coming together with the body.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't see anything. There was nothing. So they waited for 6 minutes, which was 2 minutes longer than they were supposed to wait because that's how timed out this was. And then they stuck to the plan. They were told not to go deeper. But as they started to ascend, they saw one faint light, not two. So they wrote on a slate, did not meet D and D at 150 meters for 6 minutes. So basically saying we did not see Dave and Don. We waited at 150 meters for 6 minutes. And then they wrote one light below, question mark, not sure, D's light off. So I don't know which D they were talking to, but they were just saying, we're not sure if someone's light's off or if there's only one diver ascending. So the next diver that they passed and gave that message to was a man named Herbst. I don't know his first name. I think his last name is Herb, like Herb with an ST, like Herbst. And so he saw the note on their slate and he went down past them and he knew there was a problem. He was not going to follow the guidelines and go back and ascend. He was going to go down and try to retrieve whoever was down there. So he got down to, he also just assumed that with the one light that it was only going to be David or Don, and Don was his friend. So he said that he felt guilty, but he secretly hoped it was Don. And he was really relieved when he got down there and he saw Don, and Don had written on the slate, Dave not coming back. And then it really hit Herbst. No Dave, which meant no Dion.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so tragic.
Another diver named Lo Vingerling was coming down now for his turn in the sequence of events. And it was time for Herbst to go back up. So they kind of swapped and Lo signaled that he was going to go down for Dave. He was going to go and retrieve Dave's body, but Don stopped him. Don stopped him and he did the hand across the throat, which is usually a signal in diving for like, I'm out of air. But he was just basically like signaling to him, there is no point, don't go, it's not worth it. He's dead. Meanwhile, everyone was waiting on the surface. The police divers were getting ready to go meet the body of Dion because that was their job, was to like go in to a certain depth, get the body and bring it back up to the parents. They had no idea what was happening below, but there was a pulley system they used if they needed to send messages up where they could attach a slate to some sort of like inflatable bottle or something that would then it would drop weight and then shoot the slate up really fast to the surface. So using a pulley system, that slate came up. The first slate came up and the slate said one light below. It was the same thing that said, it was the did not meet D&D 150 meters for 6 minutes. They misread one light below and thought it said no light below. So everyone on the surface thinks that both Dave and Don are gone. And so then Dion's parents are sitting there going, oh my gosh, so our son isn't coming back. And also this rescue mission just cost the life of 2 divers. And even though they didn't initiate the rescue mission, they were feeling terribly guilty. I guess the mom was just like sobbing and just like wailing and just feeling so much. I just think that she was so excited to get her boy back. And then to also know like in that moment that she wasn't going to get him back and that 2 divers were most likely dead was just too much for her. But then,
and they had already successfully been to the bottom. And so you kind of probably have that, like, we've done this before, everything's good.
Yeah, like a little false sense of security.
I think so. And especially with the team of divers that they had selected, because these were the best of the best. And all of the divers had 100% confidence in Dave Shaw. They all just were like, if anyone can do this, he can do it. He'll stick to the plan. He's experienced, he's calm, he's level-headed. He can do it. So about 20 minutes after that first slate went up, they got another slate and it just said, Dave not coming back. So The person in charge of the dive was a woman who is the, I believe, current women's world record holder. Her name is Verna van Schalk, and she's a renowned South African technical diver who has set a few Guinness World Records for deep diving. So she was in charge of this dive. She was the one saying, you go down, now you go down, and making the decisions.
I would be okay with that job.
I think she would have probably been happy to dive too, but she was happy to send other people down and be in charge.
No, I will just tell people what to do. I stay on dry land.
You would be very good at it, Haley.
Thank you.
So when Verna saw that sign, to her it meant, okay, Dawn's still alive. Even though she wasn't completely sure, that was good for her. But then she turned the slate over and realized that there was a second message on it, and it had Dawn Shirley's decompression file. So the decompression file would only be there if Dawn was alive. So then she was like, oh, good. Dawn's alive, hopefully. But the according to the file, he was not doing very well. Something was going wrong. And remember, he was trying to monitor his own oxygen and get his own oxygen in there. So the levels were probably not quite right because it's just laborious. You have to just be on top of it the whole time. So then one of the cameramen, when they realized Dave wasn't coming back up, slipped away to go call the vicar of Dave's church back in Hong Kong, because Dave had taken him aside and he said, if I don't make it, I want you to call the vicar and the vicar will tell my wife.
Oh my gosh.
So Verna, we're back to Verna. Verna's like, okay, my main plan right now is to get Don Shirley out alive. His oxygen levels aren't good. He's not quite where he's supposed to be as far as his decompression, and we've got to get him out. So that is the main focus. She sent down one of her reserve divers because she already had her 5 active divers in the water. So her reserve diver was named Gerard Dupreez, and he went down to Shirley, and he checked on every other diver along the way that were in the process of decompressing, checked on them, and then he checked on Shirley. And Shirley was actually at this point at about 160 feet from the surface, which is actually pretty close to the top of the chamber. But he wasn't doing great. Dupreez checked on him, went back up to report and said he's okay, he's alive. But as soon as Dupreez left, Shirley started to feel super, super sick, and he basically got the spins. Oh, no. And he lost the line. He started to shake and spin. He couldn't figure out up from down. And he said his whole body was spinning like he was in a washing machine. And he couldn't see the line. So he's sitting there trying to just get some type of focus. And he would occasionally see a flash of the opening of the cave because he was high enough now to see it. And then he did see a little flash of white pass in front of him. So he just darted his hand out, and it just happened to be the line. And it's if you saw the opening and all the space where he could have been spinning is like a miracle. He was able to reach out and grab that line.
That's terrifying.
That is so scary.
Yes.
Emily, have you ever had anything like that happen when you're diving?
Oh, no, my dives were super shallow. We only went to 30 feet.
Okay.
In tropical, easy dive, beginner dive
wondering.
waters,
It's so
this is also
scary.
scary.
But Jordan had that experience that we already talked about on the podcast where his flashlight went out. Or the guy banged the batteries when it didn't turn on. It was like, okay, it works. So he's able to dart his hand out, grab the line, and sort of center himself. And he said that in this whole experience, which was the most miserable experience of his life, that he never actually thought he was going to die because he just kept repeating to himself, I will survive. I will survive. I will survive. He said it over and over again, like the focused thought, I will survive.
Do you think the song was going through his head?
I wondered, but I don't know. It would be through mine.
Me too. Emily?
Which, Destiny's Child or Gloria Gaynor?
Definitely Gloria Gaynor.
Yeah, Gloria Gaynor.
So he was able to get a little look at his monitor and saw that he had accidentally ascended too far. So he had to actually go back down. He was at 160 feet, or no, he was at 114 feet and he was supposed to be at 150. And so he was at risk of getting the bends if he didn't go back down. So he had to go back down when he just wants to, all he wants is to go up. And he just kept repeating as he did hand over hand on the line to work his way back down to where he needed to be. I will survive. I will survive. I will survive. So then about 20 minutes later, another reserve diver named Truan Loss came down and he just appeared. And
That's
Shirley,
really cool name.
Truan
Loss.
Truan Loss. It is cool, isn't it?
Sorry, go on.
It's fine. We can honor Truman's name, give him a little credit. So Shirley wrote on the slate, I'm having a bad time. I've got vertigo. And so Loss was like, okay, well, let's make sure your gas mix is right. So he checked his levels of his gas mix. I think that he swapped him out at this point. He swapped out the rebreather for a regulator and was just going to be attached to a cylinder, like right about at this point in the dive.
Okay.
So up until that moment, he was trying to regulate his own oxygen.
Gosh.
That's so crazy. You guys, a guy on one of our dive trips told us a really crazy story about when he vomited underwater with his regulator on. And he was like, it was so disgusting, but you would not believe how many fish came, just surrounded him.
Yum.
Gross.
Well, there's the only thing in Bushman's hole, as far as we know, are the tiny little shrimp, but maybe they didn't vomit.
Yeah, this was a tropical story. It wasn't a mountain cave story.
So, vertigo, vomiting, swaps out his rebreather for a regulator, and now he's breathing like through a regular cylinder with a, mouth thing on. Mm-hmm. So he said that he had to keep his mind very clear because he was starting to feel the effects of some of like the chemical poisonings you can get. And he had to just keep asking himself, where should I be now? How long should I be here? And where do I have to go? And he had to just keep his mind on that. Like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to stay here for this long. And then I'm supposed to go here. And he had to just make that his entire focus. Mm-hmm. He said every breath was a conscious effort and they were getting harder and harder to take. Like, can you imagine? It's like having like laborious breathing, but he just kept saying over and over, I will survive. I will survive. I will survive. And so Verna Van Schack started cycling divers down to stay with Shirley so he wouldn't be alone. And many of the divers just kept repeating, even though they like medically shouldn't have, they were not going to leave Shirley down there. So several of them racked like 3 or 4 dives apiece, despite the risk of getting the bends. And Herbst, that initial diver that was like, went down, he said he actually did get a mild case of the bends, but he like just fought through it and went and dove again just because he loved Don and wanted him to, be safe. Wow. So he was so sick. He was vomiting, taking out his rebreather. He'd basically take out his rebreather, vomit, try to get his rebreather back in time to take a breath. And then he would have to take it out and vomit again. Mm-mm. And it just was going over and over and over again for hours.
Mm-mm. No.
So the divers came down and they basically clipped Shirley to the shot line in case he convulsed or passed out. And they would come and move him because he was so weak to the point where he couldn't climb up himself. So they would clip him in, kind of lock him in place, hang out with him, make sure he decompressed for enough time. And then the next diver would come down and move him up to the next spot where they would clip him and have him wait again. Mm-hmm. And every time he was moved, it would bring around a new round of vomiting and they could hear it. Oh. And so like when they were down there with him, Lo Vingerling, the one that was like, I'm going to go get Dave. And Don was like, no, he said it was heartbreaking to hear. And he said it was like just spastic violence of these heaves. So 10 hours in the water, constant vomiting and being so weak that the divers had to come up and move him. Don got a message. Oh. One of the divers came down with a slate and it said, message from Andre. Andre's his wife. Message from Andre. I love you. You'd better hang in there or else. Aww. And so that just gave him kind of that strength he needed to keep going. So someone had gone up and alerted his wife who was like out of town. And so she's like, you write this message for him. You take it down to him. You tell him, I will be so mad if he does not survive this. So
the afterlife is going to be a shit show if you don't make it.
So
she's like, how do you spell else? And somebody was like, ELVES.
What elves? So he made it through the chimney slot. And he made it to 10 feet. And would you believe that he had to stay at 10 feet under the water in immense pain, still vomiting? No. 10 feet. He had to stay there for 2 hours and 20 minutes. He was hypothermic.
So rude.
He was in emotional agony and he was in physical agony. He said that he was nearly delirious when those 2 hours and 20 minutes were up and the diver came to take him the last 10 feet up. He was completely delirious. They strapped him into a
Stretcher.
Gurney?
Stretcher, medical gurney. Those are both great words. They strapped him into one of those and used that pulley system to take him up the cliffs. And then he immediately went into a decompression chamber that they had waiting at the top of the cliffs.
Wow.
And luckily, they had that special doctor.
Yeah.
So even though he was like completely delirious, he had like his wherewithal enough around him that when one of his friends came at him with scissors to cut him out of his dry suit, he yelled at him and was like, "Do not cut my dry suit because it's more expensive."
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
No.
Wait, do you want to know how much dry suits cost?
Yes.
Like a technical dry suit is like $4,000.
Oh, wow. And a rebreather is like $5,000 for a.
All the equipment is super expensive, but dry suits are, I mean, for technical dives, they get up to $4,000. That's probably why he was like, "Don't cut my dry suit."
Do not cut my dry suit. Yes, So he found out that he had what caused his vertigo was a helium bubble in his ear. So he basically got like the bends in his ear canal and it caused vertigo. And he had a really long recovery and he actually still has symptoms to this day. But he said when he dives, the symptoms go away and he feels fine. So it's like walking around on land. He has like vertigo still.
Oh, crazy.
So the vicar later that day showed up at Anne's apartment and let her know what happened. And so she knew that Dave was gone. And she said that she actually, like, her wish was that his body stay in the hole and that's where that would be his final resting place. And she said that would be okay with her. And she felt like it would be okay with Dave. And she also said that she was really mad at him.
Yeah.
Really, really angry that he left her. So after,
Well, I mean, like she had those feelings for so long and then even like, and of course he did this with the best of intentions, but like telling her the wrong day. Like,
yeah, I think his intentions were like, then she won't worry. But I'd just be mad that I was like lied to. I would feel that way.
yeah.
So after the dive, while Don Shirley's in recovery and his wife had like flown back to be with him and take care of him, and he was a mess. She said she barely recognized him. After that, Herbst, the diver that we've talked about, he stayed at the hole and he was working on recovering equipment because after the dives, they have to still go down and like pull back up cylinders, pull back up all of the equipment they had stored on the line. So he had a few other divers working with him and it took a few days. So Herbst and some of the other recovery people that were recovering the equipment, they decided to have like a little makeshift funeral for Dave and they sang Amazing Grace all together. So then he hears from another diver who was helping with the cleanup that the bodies of Dave and Dion had actually been seen 20 meters below the opening of the cave. So Herbst was like, well, then I'm going to bring them up. I can retrieve them at that depth.
Yeah.
So he went in and he found their bodies like right at the chimney. They were almost like up against the ceiling. They had floated up.
Whoa.
So he went in, he saw the bodies, and what he saw was that Dave's line had gotten tangled around Dion. And so when the gases from Dave's body started to expand, the gases in that just like kind of make you naturally buoyant, that happens to bodies, he carried Dion up with him. So his mission to retrieve Dion actually was successful.
Oh my gosh. So tragic.
So did he make it to the bottom and like get him inside that like silk case, or was it
Yes. So I'm going to tell you because, well, you're about to find out.
what they were able to piece together? Okay.
I want to find out. Tell me everything.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now.
Thank you.
So Herbst went in and he decided I think he retrieved Dion's body first. And Dion had been down there for 10 years, right? And so they had kind of assumed that he would just be a skeleton. But he said as he brought Dion up, one of his booties came off. And he said that he was surprised to actually smell rotting flesh. So there was still flesh on him. And probably just because of the depth and the coldness, it just almost like preserved him in place.
Well, and like the fins, the
Yeah.
material of the fins would protect
Yeah.
the skin from being eaten on by the little shrimpies in there. And
Yeah, most likely. Like that material. I think
like
you're
those,
right.
like those
Neoprene.
disembodied feet that show up on like Seattle beaches.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. What about the disembodied feet?
Oh, like feet in like hiking boots or like running shoes and stuff, like will show up on beaches. I believe it's in like Seattle or something. And
Oh,
they're
right, because they
believed
were
to be
protected.
from
Right,
missing-
Protected, yeah, by the material of the
Right.
Yeah.
So he realized as he pulled Dave's body up that the camera attached to his helmet was still intact. And they were able to retrieve the footage and learn exactly what happened to Dave Shaw. And so now I'm going to take you through it step by step.
Oh my gosh. I forgot
So-
about the camera.
Me too.
When Shaw reaches the body of Dion Dreyer, it was just around 12 minutes into the dive, and he's been on the bottom for just over a minute. He pulls the body bag out and he starts to try to work it over Dion's legs. As he does, a cloud of silt obscures the picture in front, so they can't see what happens for a minute. When the silt clears, Dion's head floats in front of Shaw's camera. It detached from the body and floated in front of it. And you can actually find this video. I've watched it. And it is just kind of crazy to see the head with goggles kind of just pass in front. The body then started to float, which surprised Dave. And so this is where things went wrong, as he had practiced for a skeletonized body that would not float. But as soon as he started to put the body in the bag, it dislodged from the silt and it started to float. He was not skeletonized like they suspected he would be. Instead, the parts of his body that were still in the wetsuit had turned into like a soapy substance and was buoyant. So as soon as he was released from the silt, which somehow just happened when he started to try to put him in the bag, he started to float. So this surprised Shaw, and he started to fumble, and you can sort of hear him start to grunt. And as the divers that watched this and were trying to piece together what happened, they said, they just kept being like, why aren't you turning around? Like, as soon as those grunts started, they knew that was the start of a struggle. And the rule would be turn around, abandon the mission, go back up. So Shaw's breathing gets faster and more labored, indicating increasing stress. Both Herbst and Shirley watched this over and over and over, wondering why Shaw did not abandon the mission and start his ascent, saving his own life. Shirley said the first time he watched it, he found himself pleading with Shaw, saying, leave it, leave the body now. It's loose now, it'll float up. And it becomes clear that Shaw is overcome with narcosis and is just focused on the mission. And the mission was put the body in the bag, bring the bag up. Put the body in the bag, bring the bag up. So his judgment was compromised and he was just focused on that. He couldn't think clearly enough to save himself and to realize that the body would float up anyway. In the film, he's acting confused. He's working at the torso instead of the feet, like trying to get the body in the torso instead of the feet first. He was trying to because the head had left. So he was starting on the wrong end, not how he had practiced. And his movements had lost purpose. They just seemed clumsy. After more than 2.5 minutes of work, so he was at 3 minutes and 49 seconds on the bottom, he pulls out scissors and he's fumbling to open them. And the plan was for him to cut the dive tanks away and then finish putting the bag over Dion and then attach him to the line so he could be pulled up. Shaw's breathing rate continues to increase. Suddenly, he loses his footing on the sloping bottom. So he scrambles his way back to the body in a cloud of silt. And then you just hear grunts of effort and little bursts of sound that just sound terrible. They just sound terrible. Shirley and Herbst guess that Shaw's narcosis was then closer to 6 or 7 martinis on an empty stomach. So just he would be like a drunk, stumbling person trying to make coherent decisions. And they just said, you're focused on one thing. You don't focus on the dive anymore. The one thing becomes everything. And with Dave, it was just the body, the body, the body. Still, Shaw keeps checking the time on his dive computer. So he's at least coherent that he's in a timed dive. And after 5.5 minutes on the bottom, he is aware that he needs to leave. So he tries to start to leave, but he doesn't get far. The video shows the bottom moving beneath him, then Shaw's forward progress stops. His light that normally he would sling around his neck, that he didn't sling around his neck because of the helmet, so he let it float out, caught on one of Dion's tanks, and he couldn't disentangle it. So Shaw turns awkwardly and his breathing starts to sound desperate. He just pulls at the cave line, trying instead of like going and trying to disentangle the flashlight, he's just trying to like pull himself on the cave line. Like he just can't figure out what to do. And his breathing just gets shorter and shorter and faster and more shallow. Every breath now is suddenly a sharp grunt, and he's trying to move forward, but he's anchored by Dion's body now. The shears are still in his hand, but he doesn't try to cut away anything. He doesn't try to cut away Dion's body to loosen himself. And then 21 minutes into the dive, the sounds start to fade, and he is passing out and he's dying. And then 1 minute later, there's no more movement and no more sound.
That's so terrible.
I know, it's really sad.
That's so tragic.
So a doctor, this doctor is a diving specialist, he asks Don Shirley to do a little experiment with him where he wants to monitor his CO2 while Don listens to Dave's breathing and basically mimics it. So the whole idea is that Don will do the exact breathing patterns that Dave did, and then they're going to measure the CO2 levels. And so they do this, and they determine that at the end, before Dave died, he was doing 36 shallow breaths a minute. It showed extreme hyperventilation on Don Shirley, who was not wearing a rebreather, who was like in a hospital bed, where if you put in the rebreather and the altitude and the depth, it would make it so much worse. Also, when Shirley was doing it, he almost blacked out and he lost all feeling in his hands. So like functionality of his limbs. And it took him 30 minutes to get his breathing back to normal after this experiment.
Oh, wow.
So they figured out that was it. It was like hyperventilation and basically like carbon dioxide poisoning, just from taking those shallow breaths.
And also doing a movement that he wasn't used to doing, the flashlight.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate because it's like if he had had his wits about him, he could have just untangled the flashlight, but he just didn't have his wits about him. And it is that thing where if he hadn't
had the helmet,
had the helmet,
camera.
Yeah, just that unfortunate thing. So Nuno Gomez, he has repeatedly said he really respects Dave Shaw, but he never agreed with the dive. He feels like it was a mistake. He would have left Dion in the cave. But the main sentiment from the divers that were working support that day is that they are just really proud of Dave. And they said that he took the rebreather deeper than any other diver had ever taken it before. So he opened up the door to so many divers because he showed like that the limits were deeper than they had assumed with using a rebreather. So it just gave a lot more opportunities for other divers to dive at certain depths. And Theo and Marie Dreyer were able to see their son, and they both said it was therapeutic, and that like, I mean, it sounds so morbid because he didn't have his head. I don't know that they actually retrieved the head. I'm not sure. But they said that he was recognizable as their son. Like his muscles still held the form of the muscle, and they just recognized him, and they were able to just like feel like they had a chance to say goodbye.
That's lovely.
So Anne Shaw scattered Dave's ashes over several places in South Africa because it was his favorite place. And his son, Dave's son, said that he finds solace that his father died helping others. And his daughter wrote in his eulogy, "I am at peace because he died doing something that he loved. Very few of us will ever get that privilege." And that is the story of Dave Shaw, Don Shirley, and the recovery of Dion Dreyer.
Wow.
Wow. When you said you were going to tell us about Bushman's Hole, like I didn't ever look into it at all. I had no idea what you were going to tell us about. And I thought it was going to be like some sort of magical place.
Too. Like mermaids?
Yeah.
I am really sorry that this did not have mermaids.
Mermaids would have helped everything.
Well, I did say only shrimp that we know of. So I don't know.
That was, well done, Nettie. That was super interesting. What a sad story.
Never even heard of this before.
So this is the one that Rachel Haney recommended to me. And she was like, I read this crazy article and it was so intense. And so this is the one where I was going to do it earlier, but I couldn't make it through the article without hyperventilating. I would just get so uncomfortable. And I was like getting hives on my chest. It just made me so.
Did you have to acclimate?
I did. I needed to acclimate. I did actually.
You did a deep dive into this?
I had to read it in portions. In fact, I think that I finally read the full article like at 3 a.m. this morning was the first time I actually read all the way down.
Oh, wow.
Because I've started over several times. I've listened to a few things on it. I've watched like a few little videos on it, but it just is so claustrophobic for me.
Yeah. I'm just not a thrill seeker. I mean.
No.
That
scary movie, The Descent. I just have to hold my breath almost all the way through that thing.
Yeah, I have not watched it.
It's so claustrophobic.
Yes, it sounds claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a nuts one. I was excited to do it. I liked the recommendation. I'm glad I finally like made it through.
Yeah. Thanks, Cousin Rachel, for telling us.
And thanks outdoor.com magazine for was such a great article.
Yeah.
Adventure.
Yeah. And thank you for covering it and doing such a good job.
Hey, you're welcome. There was a time at the very beginning when I was like, I should pass this on to Emily. She has all the diving knowledge and all the diving experience.
Oh, no. I mean, I haven't done that many dives, like less than 20 dives. And it's all been like, I think I said 30 feet earlier, but I might have meant 30 meters. See, this is why I'm clearly not knowledgeable.
Hey, we're all just doing our best.
Best we can.
Have you had to do that like slow ascent where you decompress?
Uh-huh.
How long do you have to wait at decompression?
With the depths we went, you only had to wait like, I can't remember, it was like less than 5 minutes at a certain spot below the surface. They drop a line and there's a flag that you go to, and then you wait there and then you go up.
Are you allowed to wiggle around while you wait?
Oh, they encourage wiggling while you wait.
Yeah. Wiggle, 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 go.
Yeah.
Just wondering if you all just like sit there going, like looking at the clock, or if you're like, guys, let's do the Macarena in our scuba gear or something.
See how many times I can spin in the water like a mermaid.
I know. If you spin, you'll lose track of your flag and get too high.
No, we can't. We can't have
Don't do
that.
it.
It's funny though, because like just researching this, there are so many like diver stories that are harrowing. So I don't know. I actually think it would be a really good like a 3D episode sometime to like all do like a
Diver,
I did a
survivor.
pretty deep dive into this one. Like I told, very much of the story, but yeah, like do some
The
like,
deepest.
some more some shallow dives into diving deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm an anxious diver, so I struggle to even enjoy the scenery around me. I'm usually like barely able to take my eyes off my dive partner because I'm so scared that I'll look away for a second and then suddenly just be surrounded by like deep blue water and not know where anything is or which way is up or down. Like it's just, I've never even been in a scary enough or dangerous enough situation where that's likely, but that's just the fear that lives with me. So yeah, I'm not really very well equipped to like enjoy it.
I'm the same way.
I've never tried
Yeah.
it, so I don't know.
And I don't think I will ever try it. I just don't think it's on my list of things I
I
Care to
knew
do.
that this was going to turn you off to doing a scuba certification class with me.
I was already turned off to doing a scuba certification
Yeah,
before.
but not all the way. You
No.
agreed before.
I don't know that I agreed.
You did.
I think you said
You
like,
did.
Nettie, we learn in a pool. It's fine. And I was like, I don't know.
See, that was
Here's my other better plan. Let's just let Jason and Jordan and Brent, if he decides he wants to be part of it, dive together. And the three of us can be like that super cool lady, Velma, or whatever her name was at the top, just like drinking a margarita, drinking 7 martinis on an empty stomach on the shore.
Like, we know how you feel. Okay. We too experience narcosis.
like, I got to lay down on this sun chair.
Somebody's got to hold the land down.
I
It's gotta
also,
hold the land down.
I also,
And take a nap in my beach chair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you want to take us out?
I'll take us out. Thank you for listening. Again, we are the Spooky Darlings. You can find our social medias at the Spooky Darlings podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And if you have crazy diving stories, water stories, anything spooky, email us at thespookydarlings@gmail.com. And don't forget to hit that 5-star button and follow us and subscribe and all the things that help us out on the platforms. And we'll see you in the spooky caves.
Caves.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. 500 feet below.
5 stars.
Before we disappear into the shadows, don't forget, we're still sending out vinyl stickers. Leave us a rating and review and email us proof to thespookydarlings@gmail.com, along with your mailing address, and we'll send you some spooky snail mail while supplies last. And if your heart is still mourning that tote bag, may we gently tempt your way toward our merch store at thespookydarlings.printful.me. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Thanks for listening. And as always, stay spooky.